Whether you're joining us at 9 a.m. or 10:35 p.m., another hot summer day in the Mid-South, and that's appropriate because the political season around here is pretty heated as well. In fact, the Memphis mayor's race is our first topic today. We'll have our weekly candidate profile and talk about other developments this week as we lead up to the October 5th municipal election. We're also leading up to the special session of the state legislature. That's next week, and we're getting some hints about what to expect and not to expect that'll be accomplished. But for a special question that's been called, I should say, about guns, it's being treated like a four-letter word around Nashville. And Memphis's crime problem also grabbing headlines this week, from MPD's new plan for crowd control downtown to the DA being forced to reduce or throw out as many as 100 criminal cases, all because they had ties to the disgraced cops involved in the death of Tyree Nichols. We'll get to all of that in a moment, but first let me introduce my panel. ABC24 political analyst Otis Sanford is on my far right. Chris Tudor is former chairman for the Shelby County GOP, and Reverend Kenneth Whalum is pastor at the new Olivet Worship Center. We're going to talk about the mayor's race first because that's kind of our tradition around here, and also a tradition is a weekly profile, a different candidate each week. And this week, our Zaria Oates took a look at the Karen Camper campaign, the state representative, and here's that.
Karen Camper, a 15-year Tennessee House representative.
It's going to be necessary for Memphis.
Is tossing her hat in the ring for Memphis mayor.
Dealing with the public school system, dealing with juvenile court.
Her platform would create what she calls an ecosystem of these community partnerships to handle crime in the city.
Dealing with these zones of creative activities that will eventually extend out into all the community centers.
With crime being named a major factor in deterring large businesses from building in Memphis, investing in the 901 is crucial to her.
Invest in our neighborhoods. I was responsible and took part in bringing Blue Oval City. It's going to transform Memphis. There will be so many jobs created that our citizens can benefit from.
While the city mayor is a nonpartisan position, Camper says her current role at the State House negotiating across party lines is significant.
Whoever the mayor is going to have to work with Nashville. I have the relationships there in the legislature as well as the administration. That's a must.
Not only does Camper feel working with Nashville is crucial, but so is working with the local utility, insisting on a full audit of MLGW.
To take a look at MLGW. What are we doing right? What are the best practices? What can we do better? And I think we need to get on that with the quickness.
And that was Zaria Oates reporting. So obviously she's really relying on her 15 years of experience in Nashville. And you know, she has a point there, don't you think, Otis, that a lot of things that Memphis can't get done is because we can't get things done at the state legislature where we need some help. And that's where she sees her advantage.
Oh, I think she does. And she has been there for quite a while. I mean, 15 years. She's the minority leader in the House. And she's a nice lady. But I'm looking at reality here. And the reality is it's going to be a tough road for her. And I think she sort of overstated a little bit her involvement in Blue Oval City. She said she was responsible for it and involved in it. Well, yeah, she was involved in it because she voted for the package.
For the tax breaks.
Right. But I don't think she can say she was responsible for Blue Oval City. I think that's just an overstatement on her part. But I just don't see, with all of these candidates, I just don't see where she finds a lane to really get enough votes to win this election.
Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with the first part, definitely. I think if you ask people on the Hill in Nashville, she is respected. Leader Camper has good relationships with the governor's administration. She has good relationships with the Republican leadership. I think that's critical, and Memphis needs that. Whoever is going to be our mayor is going to have to work with the legislature, and sometimes that relationship is tense, but you need those relationships. So I think that's a huge asset, but I agree with you as well. I think she's not polling well to the extent that you can trust some of these early polls. She doesn't have a lot of the fundraising, and I think at the end of the day, we have some candidates with massive name ID. And if she's not doing an air blitz, how does she get to the point where your average voter is familiar with her and her platform? I think that's going to be a challenge.
You agree?
Well, yeah, Chris just stated the reasons why Representative Camper should probably remain a representative. Milk those relationships, continue your career in the State House. And I'll say about Karen what I say about most of the other candidates. They have good ideas, but just because you have a good idea does not mean you deserve to be elected mayor of the city. But I think it's up to the other candidates to distinguish themselves, to differentiate themselves from each other, and it's up to the voters to let candidates know, look, we like you, you're a nice guy, you're a nice gal, nice person, but not right now. This is too big, this is too important.
You know, one of the things she brought up is she's going to do something about the schools and about juvenile court. The mayor doesn't have any power over either of those bodies. Can really do absolutely nothing.
That's exactly right. And I think she's just thinking that the electorate cares about schools, and the electorate cares about juvenile court, so that's why she's bringing it up. But bringing it up and being able to do something about it are two different things. And so, no, I just think that that's just something to say in a campaign speech.
Now, we should mention you're a supporter of Paul Young, but you brought up good ideas. I don't think I've heard a single candidate come up with a good idea that I can recollect right now that just, flies off the paper at you and is like, wow, that's really something that's going to move the city forward. You disagree?
Well, my standard, the reason I'm supporting Paul, the reason I support any candidate in this kind of local election is because they have demonstrated a record of successfully administering government functions. That's my mantra. It's not just good ideas. It's have you done something in a similar set of circumstances to achieve some kind of progress? And I think Paul is going to have to make that case for himself as well as the others. On the other hand, there are those candidates, I won't call them by name, they're obvious, they are in positions right now to make a difference, and their wheelhouse has not been not known for great success. The jail, the school system, that's just to name a couple. You have to run on your record. And I think it's up to the voters to mature to the point where they can hold candidates accountable.
Well, your candidate is hitting the airwaves now. Paul Young's got two 15-second ads out. We're going to show one of them to the viewers right now, and then we'll get your thoughts on it on the other side.
I'm Paul Young, and I'm running for mayor because I believe in a Memphis where everyone has an opportunity. Let's improve public safety, invest in our neighborhoods, and ensure that every child has a quality education. I'm asking for your vote for mayor on October 5th.
First of all, interesting approach to do 15-second spots because obviously he can buy that much more time rather than a 30-second spot at all the TV stations. I know you probably, on a scale of 0 to 10, that's what we tend to do is
it's a 0, man.
That's what I think.
No, it's great.
But did it accomplish its goal, do you think? And what do you think about the messaging? Chris, on a scale of 1 to 10?
It's a good ad. It's pretty anodyne. If you were running for mayor, that would be the ad that you would run, right? It doesn't really differentiate him. I think, though, he does come across as poised. He comes across as young, an issue that we've talked about, sort of a new generation of leadership. But my understanding, at least my perspective, is that his message is, look, I am a non-ideological, highly competent, technocratic administrator. I've been successful where I've worked. He's, I think, by most counts, successfully run the Downtown Memphis Commission, and that's his pitch to the voters. Right. The ad was good, but I think, people need to be introduced to Paul. I think that's probably one of his biggest difficulties is that he doesn't have the name ID that the sheriff does. He doesn't have the name ID that Mayor Harrington does. And so maybe he doesn't need to go with a heavy policy ad. This is just, hey, here's who I am. I'm a competent guy. I'm a young guy. I'm a poised guy. And that's how he's introducing himself to the electorate.
And plenty of time for the policy ads.
That's right.
Otis?
That's right.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think the 15-second ad in today's advertising world, and I studied that a lot, most of the ads on television are 15 seconds because they feel you can say a lot in 15 seconds. And that's what he's doing. But what he's going to have to continue to do is saturate the airways with the ad to be effective.
He's got the money to, though.
And he's got the money to do it. So put that ad on every television station all the time and let people get to know you that way. Then come back later, maybe in September, with some policy ads along the way. I think it was okay. If you want to give it a number, I'd give it 5 or 6.
Okay, very good. Now let's look at another ad. This is J.W. Gibson, the businessman and former Shelby County Commissioner. He has a 30-second ad.
When I got back home to Memphis from the Navy, I started my first business out of my mom's garage, and I built one of Memphis' most successful minority-owned businesses. I grew my business here because I love my city, and today the warehouse is much bigger. I'm running for mayor because I want to grow our city the same way, with discipline, determination, and clear vision for the future. Vote for me, J.W. Gibson, for mayor, and let's grow Memphis together.
What do you think, Otis? I mean, one criticism we had of an ad last week was that the candidate, Sheriff Bonner, did not address the camera and look at voters.
Right.
He does that through pretty much the entire spot.
Oh, he did it. He had no narrator at all. So yeah, I think to that point, it was a pretty effective ad. I think to tout your business experience, growing a business, having a successful business is a good thing to say. Sometimes JW comes off as a little stiff, so he's going to have to loosen up a little bit as we go along on this race. But I think in terms of all the ads we've seen so far, it's okay in that he goes to his strength, which is business, and maybe he's going to say, I can create jobs and bring jobs into the community.
1 to 10, what would you give it?
Oh, I give it about 6.
Okay. Well, you're just cynical today. Chris, how about you?
I'll give it a 7 or 8. I mean, you know, he hit, hey, I was in the Navy, successful businessman, minority owned. I intentionally came back to this community. It's sort of the classic outsider, I'm going to bring my business acumen and show these politicians how it's done. I think it was a good ad.
As such ads go, it was pretty good, pretty good. Give it a 5.
Okay. All right, guys. Tough
At
audience.
least I'm better than 5.
All right, we'll be doing this every week as the ads progress and give them, hopefully, they'll be getting better in the ratings department than this crew gets it. One more thing about Gibson I just want to point out. When you looked at some of the debates, we had our first televised debate at WKNO this past week. Who stood out really quick that maybe surprised you as having a better performance overall than maybe you would have expected?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody stood way out. I do think Michelle McKissick, a lot of it because of her experience on TV and understanding how to talk to the camera, and she articulated herself very well there. I think she may have stood out just a little bit beyond the others.
You guys agree?
I think that Paul stood out, and I think it's clear just if you listen to him on the stage, not necessarily because I support him, but I think it's unfortunate that Van Turner has to stand next to Paul because their communication styles are so different. Van almost looks stuck every time you hear Paul and then you hear Van. I think the in-person debates are going to be great moving forward so that people can actually see and hear these candidates because the ads are going to equal themselves out. It's not going to make that much difference, but I like the in-person debates.
Anyone stand out in what you've seen in the performances so far?
I think I agree with both of them. I need to watch the full thing. I've watched parts. I've read about it. This is a race that's going to be tight. I don't think anyone blew anybody away. I don't think that we have an indomitable front runner, and I'm looking forward to more in-person debates. I think that's critical.
We'll be having a televised debate right here on ABC24 on September 11th, starting at 5:30. That's a Monday night football night, actually, so we should have a good audience for that. We hope that you'll be joining us for that. Again, that's September 11th at 5:30. Let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk about the special session of the state legislature in Nashville right after this.